West Bengal government agrees to cooperate with centre on the visit of interministerial team to take stock of the lockdown. The move comes a day after strong directive by Home Ministry following orders of non-cooperation with the central teams. Active corona cases stand at around 15,500. Around 4,000 recover, with the death toll standing at 640 with 251 deaths. Maharashtra continues to remain the worst affected. ICMR advises states not to use the new rapid antibody test for COVID-19 for 2 days after reports of variations in results. Says if there is some fault in the batch, we will ask the company to replace the kits. Further relaxation in lockdown guidelines. Caretakers for senior citizens, food processing units, shops of school books and electric fans also exempt from lockdown. In global cases of COVID-19 infection nears 25 lakhs. United States continues to be the worst affected, with the death toll climbing to 45,000. United States suspends green cards for entry into the country for 60 days. President Donald Trump says the decision will apply only to those seeking permanent residence in the United States. Good morning. Welcome to English News. I'm Anil Thomas. Today is World Earth Day, and this year's theme is climate action. The time is now for citizens to call for greater global ambition to tackle our climate crisis. Well, coming back to the top story on COVID-19, West Bengal has finally agreed to cooperate with the centre on the visit of interministerial teams. West Bengal's Chief Secretary has written to the Home Ministry and assured that they will follow the order under the Disaster Management Act and directions of the Supreme Court.
पश्चिम बंगाल के मुख्य सचिव ने आज शाम को पत्र लिखकर गृह मंत्रालय को बताया है कि उन्होंने टीम्स के साथ संपर्क किया है, बैठक की है और उनका ऑन द स्पॉट आंकलन में सहयोग दे रहे हैं। उन्होंने आश्वासन दिया है कि वे आपदा प्रबंधन अधिनियम के तहत पारित आदेश एवं माननीय सर्वोच्च न्यायालय के निर्देशों का पालन करेंगे। गृह मंत्रालय पश्चिम बंगाल सरकार के निर्णय का स्वागत करता है।
Earlier in a letter to the West Bengal Chief Secretary, Union Home Secretary had strongly objected to the reports of non-cooperation with the central interministerial teams that visited West Bengal and asked the state government to cooperate. Meanwhile, the two central teams are expected to start their work in the state following the assurance of state government. The centre had constituted 6 interministerial central teams, 2 each for West Bengal and Maharashtra and 1 each for Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. These teams are making on-the-spot assessment of the situation and issuing necessary directions to the state authorities. They are also to submit their reports to the central government. The situation is especially serious in Indore, Pune, Mumbai, Jaipur, Kolkata, Howrah, Mednipur East, 24 Parganas North, Darjeeling, Kalimpong and Jalpaiguri in West Bengal. The teams will focus on complaints related to implementation of lockdown measures, supply of essential commodities, social distancing, preparedness of health infrastructure, safety of health professionals and conditions of the relief camps for labour and poor people. The number of active cases of COVID-19 in the country has now reached 15,474. The number of those who have recovered and have been discharged have gone up to 3,869. There have been 640 deaths and 1 person has migrated. The total number stands at 19,984. While Maharashtra has reported 5,218 cases so far, Delhi and Gujarat have reported more than 2,000 cases till now. Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh have all reported more than 1,000 cases in their respective states. Centre, meanwhile, is taking several steps along with the states and union territories for prevention, containment and management of COVID-19. These are being regularly reviewed and monitored at the highest level. The Empowered Committee 4, which is entrusted with the augmenting of human resources and capacity building, has developed the COVID Warriors Dashboard, which contains data for 20 categories of human resources that includes MBBS doctors, Ayush doctors, nurses, frontline workers. At present, there is data of more than 1,24 lakh human resources on the dashboard, and it is continuously being updated with the addition of new groups and subgroups as per specialization. 4 districts, Mahe, Kodagu, Pauri Garhwal and Pratapgarh, have not reported any fresh cases during the last 28 days. There are now 61 additional districts from 23 states and union territories that have not reported any fresh cases during the last 14 days. 4 new districts have been included in the list: Latur, Osmanabad, Hingoli and Washim from Maharashtra. ICMR has advised all states not to use the new rapid antibody test for COVID-19 for 2 days as variations were reported in investigation. It has said that it will investigate the issue of faulty kits. Union Minister of Health and Family Welfare, Dr. Harshvardhan, has written to the health departments of all states and union territories to ensure adequate availability of blood in blood banks. Ministry of Home Affairs has further expanded the list of exempted items from coronavirus lockdown. According to a new order from the ministry, facility and import and export such as pack houses, inspections and treatment facilities for seeds and horticulture produce, research establishments dealing with agriculture and horticulture activities, and inter- and intrastate movement of planting materials and beekeeping related materials are exempted from lockdown measures. Shops selling educational books for students and electric fans are also given relaxation from lockdown measures. Further, sign-off and sign-on of Indian seafarers at Indian ports and their movement for this purpose as per the standard operating protocol is also given exemption. Goa Chief Minister Dr. Pramod Sawant welcomed the SOP issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs for disembarking of seafarers at Indian ports. He hoped that Goan stranded on the high seas will now be home soon.
होम सेक्रेटरी ने जो ऑर्डर निकाला, स्टैंडर्ड ऑपरेटिंग प्रोसीजर फॉर द साइन ऑन एंड साइन ऑफ of the Indian seafarers at Indian ports and their movement for the aforesaid purpose. जब मैं उनका स्वागत करता हूं, मैं सभी गोवा के लोगों की तरफ से माननीय पंतप्रधान नरेंद्र मोदी जी का मैं आभार व्यक्त करता हूं, धन्यवाद व्यक्त करता हूं। मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ शिपिंग से जो साइन ऑफ और साइन इन करना है वो कल से स्टार्ट होगा और मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ शिपिंग से इसके लिए टीजी शिपिंग से और एक प्रोटोकॉल आने वाला है। कौन सी शिप कौन से इंडियन पोर्ट पे लगेगी, कौन सी शिप कहाँ पे लगेगी और उनके मूवमेंट किस तरह से होगा, इसके लिए सेपरेट एसओपी आने वाली है कल। तो उस एसओपी से देख के बाकी प्रोटोकॉल यहाँ पे निश्चित किया जाएगा।
Further, it clarified that bedside attendants and caregivers of senior citizens residing in their home under social sector, recharge facility for prepaid mobile connection under public utilities and food processing units in urban areas under the supply of essential goods are included in the exempted services and activities from lockdown measures. Uttar Pradesh government has ordered for complete sealing of Delhi-Noida border till further orders as a precautionary measure to contain the spread of COVID-19 infection in Gautam Budh Nagar district. The decision is based on the observation made by the health department of the district. Citing reference of the new cases of COVID-19 infection in the district and the high volume of traffic movement between Delhi and Noida, the health department recommended for sealing the borders. However, relaxation in commutation has been given to government officials directly involved in handling the COVID-19 related services with valid pass issued by authorized official. Apart from them, movement of transport vehicles, ambulance services, Specialist doctors serving in Noida-based hospitals shall be allowed. Central government officers above the rank of Deputy Secretary with identity card issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs and media personnel with valid pass issued from the Office of Additional Commissioner of Police or District Information Officer, Gautam Budh Nagar, shall be allowed to commute. Keeping in mind the convenience of media personnel working in Noida, the old system of accepting ID cards shall be in place till the 22nd of April. This relaxation is valid for media personnel only. Moving on, Union Consumer Affairs Minister Ramvilas Paswan has given this clarification there that there is no shortage of food grains for the poor. He asked Rahul Gandhi to shun his negative mindset after the Congress leaders attacked centre over its decision to use surplus rice for making ethanol. The union minister said that the central government is committed to the poor and it has surplus grain stock of 539 lakh tons. He added that it is wrong to say that things like sanitizers or masks are of use to the rich, as the government wants that even poor can use them.
हम सरकार की तरफ से हमारी मानसा है, दोनों चीज है कि जो गरीब लोग हैं उनको कहते भूखा नहीं रखा जाए, लेकिन उसके साथ साथ ये कह देना कि आज के समय में सैनिटाइजर जो है अमीर लोगों के लिए है या मास्क अमीर लोगों के लिए है, मैं समझता हूँ ये गलत बात है। हम तो चाहते हैं कितना सैनिटाइजर हो जाए कि हम हर गरीब को क्या कहते हैं उसका लाभ क्या कहते हैं कि ले सके और इस वायरस से बचे, और मास्क का क्या कहते हैं कि हर घर में क्या कहते हैं कि प्रयोग हो।
The Government of India will be conducting a telephonic survey calling up citizens on their mobile phones across the country. The calls will be coming into mobile phones from the calling number 1921. People are informed that this is a genuine survey and are requested to participate in good measure when a call comes in from 1921 to enable proper feedback of the prevalence and distribution of COVID symptoms. Earth Day is being celebrated across the world today. Earth Day is an annual event celebrated to demonstrate the support for environmental protection. The theme of this year's celebration is climate action. The day was celebrated for the first time in 1970, making 2020 the year of its 50th anniversary. Union Environment Minister Prasar Bharati in his message on Earth Day urged people to take a pledge to adopt sustainable lifestyle.
Today on April 22, world observes Earth Day. As Mahatma Gandhi used to say, that this earth, this planet can take care of everybody's need, but not everybody's greed. I think that connotes a message. And our Prime Minister Narendra Modi always says that we must limit our consumption so that we live a sustainable lifestyle. So he brought lifestyle issue into the whole debate of climate change. And therefore Indian lifestyle, which is completely environmental friendly, is an example of how we can move ahead. Some people argue that if we cut on our consumption, the economy will suffer. But it won't. Because if you are cutting on certain kind of consumption, you will be doing other consumption which is of more necessity, which gives equity, which gives justice, which brings all poor people on the level of, as this lockdown has already told us, that unless we give social justice and bring poor people out of poverty, we cannot achieve and we cannot fight such menace effectively. And therefore, Earth Day is a day of resolve. day of making pledges and also protesting against malpractices. I always see in many countries the shops and malls and everything are lighted throughout 24 hours. When the shop is closed, why there should be light? It should be closed. It should be shut off. But they don't shut off. And the pet argument is that otherwise the electricity, if you are not consuming, it will go waste. We can reach out to new sectors where there is dearth of electricity. But overconsumption is sin. And therefore, we need to point out all such fallacies and protest against them also. I think this is the pledge we need all to take on this Earth Day and pledge for sustainable lifestyle propounded by Mahatma Gandhi ji and now brought in climate change debate by Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Well, on this particular Earth Day, let us take a pledge to practice the 3 R's in our lives. One is reuse, reduce, and also recycle. Moving on now to some international stories. The total number of COVID cases have crossed 25.6 lakhs globally, while the death toll has crossed 1,76,000. US, Spain and Italy remain the countries with the most number of reported cases. Meanwhile, the US Senate on Tuesday unanimously passed the legislation providing nearly $500 billion in additional federal aid to help small businesses hurt by the coronavirus pandemic and to aid hospitals dealing with large number of seriously ill patients. The bill, which is supported by the White House, now goes to the House of Representatives, where it could be voted upon as soon as Thursday. US President Donald Trump on Tuesday welcomed the agreement between Republican and Democratic lawmakers to provide more coronavirus relief funding for small businesses and others. Meanwhile, President Trump has said his plan to ban immigration into the United States will last for 60 days and apply only to those seeking permanent residence. President Trump said that he will be issuing a temporary suspension of immigration into the United States, and the measure will be in effect for 60 days and then re-evaluated. Trump administration will be examining additional immigration-related measures to protect American workers. About 1,950 inmates and nearly 155 staff at an Ohio prison have tested positive for COVID-19. The number would make the outbreak at the Marion Correctional Institution in Marion among the largest COVID-19 hotspot in the United States. Nearly 80% of the prison's roughly 2,500 inmates have been affected by the virus. The Marion Star reported 1 guard and 1 inmate having died from COVID-19. Moving to Europe, where Spain has approved an extension of the country's lockdown to May 9th, but eased some limits on children from April 27th. Children under the age of 14 will be able to accompany an adult during essential tasks such as shopping in supermarkets or pharmacies, but they will still not be able to pay freely with their friends for some time. Spain's spokeswoman Maria Jesus Montero said that the government was working on a guide that would outline permitted activities, although she alluded to the common sense and responsibility of parents. Spain is the second country in the world with the most number of cases of COVID-19 after the United States and has imposed one of the strictest lockdown measures in Europe. The British Parliament, meanwhile, resumed on Tuesday from an extended Easter break in wake of COVID-19 pandemic, allowing lawmakers to scrutinize ministers as criticism grows of government handling of the global crisis. Few lawmakers were in attendance as Britain's Parliament reconvened as members of Parliament seek to adhere to social distancing measures. Senior government ministers Jacob Rees-Mogg formally proposed a part virtual hybrid parliament to be introduced temporarily as Britain continues to combat the spread of the novel COVID-19. The new arrangements, approved without a formal vote, will be in place until May 12th. The House of Commons, Parliament's elected lower chamber, will sit on Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, with the first 2 hours taken up by questions to government, ministers and ministerial statements. Mexico, meanwhile, has entered what the government calls phase 3 of the spread of the new COVID-19. The most serious stage as transmission of the virus is intensifying. Mexico has extended government restrictions to contain COVID-19 until May 30th. Government plans to begin easing up restrictions from June 1st onwards if the current measures are successful. In recent weeks, concerns have mounted about the spread of the highly contagious virus through deportation proceedings. At least 15 migrants from several countries who have tested positive for coronavirus have been placed in isolation at a northern Mexico shelter. The authorities say that a man carrying the virus and deported from Houston had infected most of the others. Meanwhile, hundreds of factory workers there in Zores protested to call on assembly plants to close down to prevent the spread of COVID-19 after area residents died last week. At least 4 workers at U.S. company factories in Mexico border towns died last week, and companies and workers said they are apparently linked to cases of new COVID-19. Many of Mexico's border factories are disobeying orders to suspend operations, causing concern among their employees. Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong has extended a partial lockdown until the 1st of June in the wake of the sharp rise of COVID-19 cases. The city has seen a sharp jump in cases in recent weeks, fueled by infections in cramped migrant worker dormitories, many of which are under government-ordered quarantine. The city's state reported more than 9,125 cases after a record daily jump of over 1,400 cases. Lee said the extended lockdown period would help bring the community cases down decisively and make sure infections in migrant dormitories do not spread into the wider community. Moving to Australia, where the Prime Minister Scott Morrison has declared that the country is on the road to recovery with new coronavirus infections almost stamped out. He has said hospitals will resume many elective surgeries and schools will be reopened for more children. Australia had banned all non-emergency surgeries to free up hospital beds in March amid expectations of a surge in coronavirus cases. Schools were also closed, but with infection rates falling from more than 25% in mid-March to the current levels of less than 1% a day, Scott Morrison said on Tuesday that Australia could relax some restrictions from next week. Meanwhile, the authorities have secured more protective and medical equipment, including a full capacity of 7,500 ventilators. Australia has recorded 6,547 cases of coronavirus and 67 deaths have been reported. On to something positive. A nun in Lima is doing her bit to fight the spread of COVID-19 in Peru by jumping on a tractor to disinfect the streets of the capital. Nun Rebecca Frick took a farm tractor to fumigate and disinfect streets, working with locals and health officials to keep residential areas free of COVID-19. Frick drives a tractor around Lima's Mora district, an area of the capital that has not yet reported coronavirus cases. Peru has confirmed over 17,800 COVID-19 cases and has reported more than 480 deaths. Moving to Britain, 99-year-old British war veteran Captain Tom Moore, who has raised more than $28.77 million for health service by walking laps of his garden, opened a new field hospital on Tuesday. Moore praised the National Health Service workers, that's the NHS workers, via video link at the opening of the new Nightingale Hospital in Harrogate, Northern England, which is being set up to help deal with the coronavirus outbreak. AIIMS doctors have come up with a music video of their own to drive home the crucial message that there is no need to worry as far as COVID-19 is concerned, and like many threats in the past, India will win this battle too.
तू कमाल है बेमिसाल हमें तुम पे नाज है भाई काहे घबराए क्यों तू है घबराए काहे चिंता तुझे सताए तू कमाल है बेमिसाल हमें तुम पे नाज है भाई काहे घबराए रखो थोड़ी तुम दूरी हैंड वॉशिंग भी है जरूरी और पीपीई के इस्तेमाल से करेंगे जीत भी पूरी।
सुन 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 अरे भाई सुन, जानो इसके कई सारे गुण। सुन 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 अरे भाई सुन, जानो इसके कई सारे गुण।
ना कम करे ना ज्यादा, बस सही पीपी डाल के जाए। काहे घबराए, काहे घबराए।
घर वालों की अब चिंता दिन रात जो तुझे सताए, कोरोना तो मिट जाएगा उनको तू दे समझाए।
अरे सुन 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 सिस्टर सुन, सुन सुन डॉक्टर बाबू सुन, सुन 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 सिस्टर सुन, सुन सुन डॉक्टर बाबू सुन।
और जरूरी एक बात है सुन,
सही तरीके से पीपी पहन के जंग पे जाए। काहे घबराए, काहे घबराए।
On that positive note, it's time for me to say goodbye. But remember to stay safe, stay indoors, and be positive. Bye-bye.